Good morning, teachers. How are you today? I'm very happy to have you here. My name is Marta Galvis. For those of you who don't know me, I am the coordinator of the Plan Distrital de Segunda Lengua, Secretaría de Educación. And this is an effort made by the Secretaría de Educación, British Council, and Richmond Publishing. We decided to design material for our students in order to help them know how to answer a formal test. So the idea of this material, Know Now, Achieving Skills, Preparing for Life, is that we prepare our students not during 6 years that they are with us in school, but during the last 2 months as a review of what they have seen, just to prepare them for ICFES exam. This Know Now booklet is designed to be worked on during 40 hours maximum, okay? But it provides students skills to review and to do additional exercises of language. And we hope it is a guide for you to help your students succeed in Prueba Saber 11. Fortunately, the idea was listened by British Council, and that's why we're doing this workshop today. And the next workshop we had said it was going to be on the 6th of June, but we just got the information that you have a permission from the, I don't know how you call it. ¿Cómo se llama? El permiso sindical? Circuito sindical on the 6th of June. We do want everybody to have this training. We do want everybody to be here. So what we will be doing is that we will let you know when the next training is going to be, just in order to respect this permission and respect your thoughts about it. So we will inform you when we will be doing it, probably the 8th of June, probably, okay? How many of you know how the Prueba Saber is composed of? What is it composed of? How many of you know about the Prueba Saber? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, okay, how many parts does Prueba Saber have? 7 parts, good, okay. And are all the parts, do all the parts have the same levels? No. So what levels is it composed of? So what level is vocabulary? A1. So the first 4 parts, A1. The next part, parts 5, part 4 and 5, A1 and A2, right? And the last 2 parts are B1 or plus, right? That is very important to keep into account. Why? Because there are a lot of resources. And the main thing, there are lists of vocabulary and special information for you to keep in mind about how it is developed. Remember that a test is developed based on vocabulary, and the Common European Framework has lists of vocabulary that you will need to look for. We will be posting a lot of information in Red Académica, and we are filming this workshop for all of the teachers of the district to see that because they didn't have the opportunity to be here. So we are welcoming all the district school teachers that want to know about how to use this booklet, and we will hang the video as well in Red Académica. We will provide you with the links of the vocabulary lists for A1, A2, B1 in Red Académica. We will have the booklet in Red Académica, okay? So everything is going to be there. You will have all the resources in the web page, and it's all going to be free for everybody. We will also be giving you the booklet during the next meeting. I don't know, June 6th, June 8th probably, I don't know when. But for the next one, we will have the real booklet in your hands, okay? Nevertheless, you have the booklets here, the information. This is the cartilla, is what's here. All the information that you need about the booklet and additional information is going to be there. We invite you to, if you have questions, to send us your questions. We will be in the Secretaría, very happy to answer any type of question, suggestion, etc. Next semester, we will have an app for students to play with these type of questions. Richmond is building the app, and we will have it probably when you are leaving schools for vacation. So I can say that in July, you will have the app for your students to start practicing with additional exercises. We will let you all know when the app is up and ready, okay? So welcome to the workshop. I want to welcome Richmond and thank Richmond for this workshop. Andrea. Andrea is going to be your trainer today. Luisa Martinez is here in the back. She's the one who called all of you to invite you to the workshop, and we are colleagues at the Secretaría de Educación. We will be here in the back. If you have any questions, please go ahead and make them. Welcome again and enjoy the workshop.
Thank you, Marta. So, good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you, Andrea Ramirez, and my colleague is John Pulido. We will be guiding you today through this session. And before we start, we kindly ask you to fill in this evaluation form. You have it on your tables. It has 4 questions, and Luisa will be giving you a second form towards the end of the session, okay? So if you could please take a minute to answer these 4 questions, we will appreciate it. Okay, so thank you very much. And as Marta said, welcome to this session today. We will be working throughout the morning. It will be a very enriching and demanding session. We hope is like you answer all the questions you've brought today to this session. And one of the recommendations I will give you for this session is ask, ask, ask. That's one of the aims of this session, is for you to be continuously asking questions, and we will be responding those questions and working collaboratively, okay? So with no further ado, what's the agenda for today? We'll be going over standardized tests, checking concepts. We'll be working on the structure of the booklet, Know Now, Achieving Skills Preparing for Life. We'll be going over diagnostic tests, 1 and 2, and getting acquainted with the methodology for these kind of tests. We'll be understanding and using sections 1 to 4 in the classroom. John will be working with you on the strategies used in these sections. And we will be reflecting. This is also a process of self-reflection, so we'll encourage you to be constantly asking questions, answering yourselves, talking to your colleagues, and what are the goals of the session. We'll be reviewing assessment and evaluation concepts in order to understand the purpose and the use of the booklet Know Now. We'll go through the sections, we'll explore in detail all the sections the booklet has, the purpose of every section in the booklet, and the tools you have to work with your students. To get acquainted with the English component of Prueba Saber 11, we will go over the 7 sections, the weighting of every section, the time students have to answer the questions in the Prueba Saber. Identify the main characteristics and structure of the booklet so that you are familiar and you can navigate through the sections and are very well informed on how to use the booklet. Understand the different sections of the booklet, such as diagnostic tests, training sections, and strategies. And finally, reflect upon the training session and determine how to implement the booklet in the classroom. We want you to be reflective and take your students to reflect as well. Sometimes they don't get good scores in the exams, not because they don't know, but because they don't understand how to apply that knowledge they have. And sometimes they feel misguided and get lost and simply quit and say, no, I can't, this is too difficult, I don't understand, and I don't know what to do. So one of the aims of this session is to give you tools and a clear understanding on how to help your students succeed in Prueba Saber and get better results. We'll be making questions a lot today. As you can see on one side of the room, we have a poster that's parking lot, as well as on the other side. And on the tables, we have Post-its. So we're going to work in a parking lot activity, right, throughout the session. And we'll have 3 moments of reflection and analysis. So how are you going to use the Post-its? Every time you have a question, as we're going through the session, please feel free to write your question and take it to the poster, right? We'll stop 3 times during the session to go check if the questions have been answered or not. If the questions have been answered, you can take them back and you have the information now. If not, we'll leave them there, and John and I will be answering the questions, and we will be working with you hand by hand to answer the questions that haven't been answered. Okay, we'll also be working on the portfolio activity. Yes, you have it on your tables. If you can please open it to page 1. Did you find it? Yes, it's there. And there is a very nice welcoming message. If you can please take a minute to read it. We are welcoming you to this session. We're encouraging you to take the most you can from this session. Teachers, our job is hard because you have big groups, you have students who sometimes are not motivated to be in the classroom. They come with sometimes a lot of questions, sometimes they don't want to participate, and our job is to help them succeed in whatever we're doing in class. And second language is even harder because we are communicating in a language they don't understand. Sometimes they don't see the purpose of why I have to take these English classes. So we know we have only the best teachers here, and that's what we are counting on your collaboration, on your commitment, and that good energy you brought today so that the session is successful, and then you can have successful classes with your students. So the portfolio, it's an invitation to reflect, go through the questions, and then we will be working on an action plan on to how is it that I'm going to put into practice the strategies in the booklet, and how is it that my students are going to use them. So this session is focused on you, how to help you use those strategies and get better results. So we're going to start with evaluation, right? And for this activity, this first activity in the morning, I want you to work in pairs or individually, whatever you prefer, or groups of 3, right? Because maybe we don't have an even number. So if you can please get together with the person next to you or someone who's close to you, and we're gonna do a very short activity. On your tables, there is a worksheet that has 3 definitions and 3 words, right? One of the words is assessment, another one is standardized tests, and the other one is evaluation. So we have to match the concept to its definition. And to do that, we have 3 minutes, starting now, okay? So I need a volunteer to read the first one.
Volunteer, I have a volunteer.
We have the first definition on the screen. What would that definition belong to?
Okay. Refers to the measuring of the student's abilities, formal or informal, that affects how later instruction is designed. It is not graded. Results are informative and are reported as student scores. Provides feedback to the teacher on how effectively students are learning and may offer insight on how to improve the learning process.
And what's that?
We say that is assessment.
Perfect, see? It's a great class.
Do we have another volunteer?
Another one.
Thank you. It is used to judge students' abilities, often at the end of a course or program. The primary purpose of results is to assign a score or grade the students' work. This includes tests, quizzes, worksheets, essays, projects, anything that is scored and recorded to provide a snapshot of a student's performance at a certain point in time. And
Perfect.
it corresponds to evaluation.
Let's see. Da-da-da-da. Yes, very good. So what can you notice? It's we highlighted some words. I hope you highlighted different ones if you think those are relevant. What do you think are the main differences between the two definitions? We have on top assessment, and then we have evaluation. What are the key differences? What key differences do you notice between both? And what kind of evaluation do they belong to? A volunteer, anyone? Yes, please.
Who? Who is it? Wait.
Here, okay.
I will say that the biggest difference is graded or not graded. That in the assessment, we just said to the kid, okay, you are working very well, you are learning, or maybe you can improve on this, and that's it. And then in the other one, we say, okay, you get a 1, or you get a 5, or whatever. I would say that is the most important. In the assessment part, we just, the part that says informative, that we just tell to the kid, okay, this is happening, and the other one is, you got this.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I would highlight that grading part, and I will also highlight a certain point in time, because we will be talking about summative and formative evaluations, right? And the second one will be a kind of, or there are multiple kinds of summative evaluations we use to to show results, right? And students use them in different moments throughout the year in life to have scores and to have proof of results at a certain point in time. Whereas formative evaluation gives us information on how things are going and how to inform my process and reflect probably as well. Okay, and then finally we have the last one. It's very obvious. What it is the standardized tests. Anyone who wants to read, please?
So a standardized test is any form of test that requires all test takers to answer the same questions, or a selection of questions from common bank of questions which makes it possible to compare the relative performance of individual students. They are designed to have consistent questions, administration procedures, and scoring procedures.
Thank you very much. So what is one test that we have all in this room taken? And a standardized test we've all taken? Saber, right? Saber test. That's a kind of exam. It's a standardized exam we've all taken, but probably most of us have also taken international tests, right? PET, TOEFL, etc. Students are more and more familiar nowadays with those tests, and those are standardized tests. They serve a purpose, and their main aim is to make it possible for the information to be used to create new standards, new processes. So we have assessment for learning. We were talking about formative assessment. We said that it's assessment for learning. It includes self-evaluation, co-evaluation, and hetero-evaluation. And we also have assessment of learning, which is summative. And Prueba Saber will be one kind of summative assessment. Very good. Any questions so far? No? Perfect. Good. So now we're going to, something that I mentioned, or I forgot to mention at the beginning when we were welcoming you to this session, is that we will be transitioning from Spanish, English, English, Spanish, okay? And it's just because the booklet has Spanish in some of the sections and the instructions are in Spanish, and it's because it's targeted to students so that we don't go around language and we make sure they understand what they have to do and they get a clear picture of the strategies. Okay. Entonces, vamos a ir a través de las secciones de la cartilla. Tenemos 7 partes en términos de lo que contiene la prueba y vamos a ver un panorama muy claro sobre qué evalúa, qué debe hacer quien tome la prueba, el estudiante que se enfrente a esa prueba Saber Inglés 11, qué debe tener en cuenta, cuántas preguntas tiene cada parte y el tiempo. Y es muy importante que ustedes tengan esta información muy clara porque los pesos de la prueba, los tiempos y el nivel de dificultad que la prueba tiene cambia de sección a sección. Y si el estudiante tiene claro eso, puede enfocar la estrategia para poder cumplir en el tiempo asignado y con el nivel de dificultad que tiene cada sección. La primera parte evalúa el uso interactivo del inglés y lo que debe saber el evaluado es identificar y comprender situaciones comunicativas a partir de anuncios. Entonces vamos a evaluar qué tan capaz es el evaluado de poder relacionar lugares, información en anuncios y todo esto en un contexto particular. Entonces, en esa sección tenemos un total de 5 preguntas, 5 minutos. Es muy rápido. Tenemos la segunda parte del examen que evalúa conocimiento lexical, relacionar una palabra con su descripción es lo que se le pide al estudiante y allí va a tener que hacer una discriminación de términos y va a tener que trabajar con grupos de palabras. Y les empiezo a arrojar algunas de las estrategias que vamos a trabajar con los estudiantes. Entonces deben estar en capacidad de poder armar grupos de palabras según categorías para poder hacer asociaciones y discriminar. Eso es lo que se le pide al estudiante. Un total de 5 preguntas y una duración de 5 minutos. También es una sección muy corta. Conocimiento comunicativo, identificar el uso del inglés en conversaciones cortas. Entonces, a partir de un contexto, una situación comunicativa, una conversación corta, se espera que el estudiante esté en capacidad de poder seleccionar aquella respuesta que sería más apropiada para esa situación que se presenta. Y hay distintos contextos comunicativos. 5 preguntas también para una duración de 5 minutos. Conocimiento gramatical, y allí se espera que el estudiante esté en capacidad de escoger de una categoría de palabras aquella que más se ajuste para poder completar el texto que se está evaluando como totalidad. 8 preguntas, 11 minutos y el nivel de dificultad de la prueba empieza a aumentar. Entonces lo vemos ver como una pirámide y hacia el final de la prueba en la sección 7 pues es donde recae el mayor nivel de dificultad, ¿sí? Es progresivo. Parte 5, comprensión de lectura literal, identificar información explícita en el texto. Entonces, allí vamos a aplicar estrategias para poder extraer información puntual, ideas principales, palabras que marcan algún sentido específico de la lectura. Y tenemos un total de 7 preguntas para 12 minutos. Sección 6, comprensión de lectura inferencial y el estudiante va a tener que identificar la intención del autor, abstraer de lo que está presente en el texto, que no es explícito y que le va a permitir llegar a conclusiones sobre la lectura. No va a estar en el texto, entonces eso puede requerir un nivel de abstracción requiere de hecho un nivel de abstracción mucho más alto y el desarrollo de algunas estrategias metacognitivas. 5 preguntas y tiene una duración de 10 minutos y finalmente la sección 7 que evalúa el conocimiento lexical y gramatical. Entonces allí nos va a pedir que el estudiante esté en capacidad de utilizar vocabulario y gramática en un solo texto discriminando estas 2 categorías para poder completar un texto. 10 preguntas, 12 minutos. Mhm. Yes. La información está en la página 4 del booklet, lo vamos a revisar en detalle en un momento, pero quería que ustedes tuvieran un panorama muy claro de lo que evalúa la prueba Saber. En total tenemos 45 preguntas contenidas en la prueba Saber. El booklet en los ejercicios que presentan las secciones 1 al 7 refleja de manera exacta el tipo de preguntas y el formato de pregunta que se hace en prueba Saber, entonces los estudiantes se van a ver enfrentados a la realidad de lo que van a tener que hacer en la prueba Saber. Y un total de 60 minutos. Entonces, tiempo, habilidad y conocimiento juegan un papel importante en la presentación de la prueba. Pero como les decía al principio de la sesión, a veces el conocimiento puede pasar a un segundo plano si yo entiendo muy bien cuál es la estrategia de la prueba y si aprendo a manejar muy bien los tiempos. Eso me puede ayudar a tener más confianza en lo que estoy haciendo. Pero si alguno de nuestros estudiantes se desvía y durante las sesiones de prueba se demora 15 minutos solamente en el primer ejercicio, pues desde allí ya va a empezar a generar problemas para la presentación de la totalidad de la prueba. Y recordemos que la última sección, por ser el nivel de dificultad más alto, es el que va a tener un poco más de tiempo, pero también mayor peso dentro de la prueba. Y lo vamos a ver ahora. Weighting per section. Entonces, la parte 1 tiene un porcentaje de 11%. Si ustedes se fijan, las secciones que más peso tienen dentro de la prueba son la 4, la 5 y la 7. Eso no quiere decir que como estudiante debería desenfocarme y solo concentrarme en algunas partes de la prueba, pero sí quiere decir que debo enfocar mis esfuerzos o priorizar algunas estrategias para poder obtener mejores resultados. Todo ese porcentaje pues me va a permitir obtener unos buenos resultados en prueba Saber. Cuando estemos haciendo el análisis de los resultados de los diagnósticos, es importante que ustedes se remitan nuevamente a esta información para que puedan verificar cuáles son esas secciones de la prueba en la que los estudiantes han tenido mayor dificultad para poder crear un plan de acción que sea efectivo en términos de lo que tenemos que hacer con esos resultados para poder potencializar y mejorar esas áreas críticas en la prueba. Bueno. En sus mesas tenemos una hoja que contiene esta actividad. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? Vamos a hacer un recorrido por la cartilla, paso a paso por las distintas secciones, y quiero que durante ese recorrido ustedes utilicen este gráfico para ir completando las distintas secciones. Después vamos a hacer un proceso de revisión de esos apartados. Good. So we're back to Know Now, and this is the flip book. You will have digital material uploaded in the secretaries. It's on the table. On the first section, we have the content page. We have the list of contents. We have lo que debe saber de la prueba, prueba diagnóstica inicial Saber 11. So we'll have 2 diagnostic tests, one at the beginning, one at the end. Entrenamiento parte 1, parte 7, that's the training part for every one of the sections of the test. Tabla de registro de resultados, that's a very nice add-on. We will be going over tabla de registro de resultados so you see how it works and how it helps the students and how it helps you. Hoja de respuestas, prueba diagnóstica inicial, and hoja de respuestas, prueba diagnóstica final. Those will be in digital version, and for the sections of the exam where we have practice exercises, students will be answering those exercises in the booklet. Okay, good. Some important information here. There are some icons throughout the booklet. We have the first one, it's explicación de la respuesta correcta. So you see a teacher standing there in front of the board. That's to make reference to explicación de la respuesta correcta. We're gonna tell students what the right answer is and why. We have a group of students together there, that's representing trabajo en grupo. Yes. Then we have this very important sign, which is tiempo de la prueba, is gonna be there just to remind the students on how important it is to control time. As we saw it before, the sections are very specific in terms of the quantity of questions they have and the time given to students to answer. So every minute counts, and it's just a 60-minute test. So they will be having to control, they will have to control the time on their own. And throughout the sessions we will be conducting as teachers, you will have to make sure to emphasize on that. Keep an eye on time. Make sure you use the time allotted for that section or less. Evaluación del desempeño en cada parte de la prueba. Tenemos allí los engranajes. And links de trabajo autónomo. Entonces vamos a ver el computador y son herramientas adicionales para que el estudiante pueda trabajar de manera autónoma. Bueno, ¿qué evalúa? Entonces, la prueba de saber de inglés da cuenta del nivel de desempeño en el idioma de acuerdo a estándares internacionales. Y esos estándares que han sido adoptados para Colombia son los del marco común europeo, en la escala de A1 hasta C2, y el objetivo para nuestros estudiantes es que tengan un nivel B1, según la escala del marco común europeo. A través de las 45 preguntas que se toman en la prueba, se mide la capacidad para comprender la lengua y para comunicarse por medio de vocabulario, gramática, comprensión de lectura en situaciones básicas de comunicación. Ese es el objetivo de la prueba, eso es lo que pretende evaluar. ¿Qué aspectos mide la prueba? Ya lo vimos en las 7 secciones cuando recorrimos el mapa de la tabla de contenidos. 7 secciones: uso interactivo del inglés, conocimiento lexical, conocimiento comunicativo, conocimiento gramatical, comprensión lectora literal, comprensión lectora inferencial, conocimiento lexical y gramatical. ¿Y qué debe saber quién toma la prueba? Estos serían los marcadores de lo que un estudiante en grado 11 debería saber. Identificar y comprender situaciones comunicativas. Esto puntualmente para las secciones donde se evalúa el conocimiento, conversaciones cortas, etc. Relacionar palabras con contextos comunicativos, evaluación lexical, conocimiento de vocabulario, identificar el uso de inglés en conversaciones, elegir estructuras adecuadas según el contexto de frases, gramática, responder preguntas de lectura literal, identificar información explícita en el texto, esto para la parte 5 de lectura literal, identificar la intención del autor u otros aspectos generales o específicos del texto que no son explícitos, hacer inferencias y poder hacer la lectura leyendo entre líneas, y leer textos y elegir la palabra o elemento lingüístico correcto, que hace referencia a la parte 7, donde se integran vocabulario y gramática. Bueno, las partes de la prueba saber, que ya las recorrimos anteriormente, y cómo está organizada la cartilla. Arrancamos con una prueba diagnóstica. Esa prueba diagnóstica tiene 45 preguntas y cubre todas las secciones de la prueba saber. Entonces, en su totalidad, asemeja totalmente a una prueba real. Por eso va a ser muy útil que la utilicemos al inicio de los talleres con los estudiantes, porque nos va a permitir establecer un punto de partida hacia dónde dirigir los esfuerzos, para que el estudiante se enfoque y vea cuál es su punto inicial de partida y saber a dónde vamos a establecer la meta para llegar a ese objetivo grande. Entrenamientos de la parte 1 a 7 y cada sección en la prueba donde vamos a trabajar en las partes de evaluación va a contener qué evalúa esta sección, describe el objetivo de la pregunta de cada parte de la prueba, cómo responder este tipo de pregunta, y allí es donde vamos a trabajar las estrategias que se le presentan al estudiante para que el profesor las modele y las utilice en el aula. Uso del tiempo, el icono del reloj indica los minutos que debe dedicar a cada parte de la prueba. Un ejemplo donde mostramos cómo se debe o cómo se vería una pregunta de ese tipo y cómo se respondería. Tips, consejos adicionales para responder al tipo de pregunta, y van a encontrar información adicional relevante para la presentación de esa sección en el examen. Refuerce la estrategia, preguntas de práctica para aplicar la estrategia. Pruebe sus habilidades, sección de entrenamiento con el tipo de pregunta específico. Entonces vamos a tener una sección de refuerce la estrategia donde vamos a tener 2 preguntas de práctica y después vamos a irnos a profundidad a trabajar el número de preguntas que se evalúan en la prueba. ¿Quién me puede recordar cuántas preguntas tiene la sección 1, por ejemplo? 5, correcto. Entonces, en esa sección vamos a encontrar 5 preguntas y así sucesivamente en cada sección vamos a encontrar el número de preguntas correspondiente a esa sección de la prueba. Y una reflexión final, preguntas de reflexión para determinar el uso apropiado de las estrategias, permitiéndole al estudiante, a través de la autorreflexión, entender qué hice, qué me falta hacer y cómo puedo mejorar el resultado en esa sección particular de la prueba. Tenemos finalmente una prueba diagnóstica final que permite al estudiante identificar el progreso que ha tenido a partir del desarrollo de actividades y la aplicación de estrategias por cada parte de la prueba. Entonces vamos a hacer, como lo hemos estado mencionando, un proceso reflexivo a través del cual el estudiante pueda tener un punto de partida, hacer una serie de ejercicios y a través de la ejercitación llegar a unos resultados y presentar un diagnóstico final para poder tener un punto de comparación que le permita entender dónde empecé, qué hice, cómo lo hice y a qué resultado he llegado, en dónde aún debo mejorar. Contiene 45 preguntas correspondientes a las 7 partes de las pruebas, entonces les va a permitir hacer un espejo entre el diagnóstico 1 y el diagnóstico 2. Y finalmente tenemos pare, revise, corrija y siga, que le permite al estudiante ayudar a establecer un plan de mejoramiento para que ustedes encaminen ese plan de mejoramiento y puedan guiar esos esfuerzos en conjunto. Perfecto. Entonces, vamos a revisar esa estructura en el ejercicio que estamos haciendo a medida que fui recorriendo la cartilla. ¿Quién quiere ayudarme? Si te devuelves, Johncito, por favor. Ahí, perfecto. Listo. Entonces, lo que debes saber de la prueba. ¿Qué sigue después de eso? ¿A dónde nos conduce después la cartilla? Listo. Lo que debes saber de la prueba. Entonces, ¿a dónde nos conduce? Prueba diagnóstica. Muy bien. Listo. Bueno, entonces lo que debes saber de la prueba, seguimos con el diagnóstico 1, pasamos a los entrenamientos parte 1 a la 7 y qué se evalúa en esta sección y cuál es la estructura de esa parte. ¿Qué otra información encuentro allí? ¿Cómo se responde? Ajá, hablándome acerca de la estrategia puntualmente o las estrategias que voy a utilizar para responder esa prueba. Y después tenemos, esa es la estructura de los entrenamientos, ¿no? Que se evalúa en esta sección y nos presenta la información inicial de qué es eso que se está evaluando en esa sección en particular. En la sección 1 hablábamos de conocimiento lexical, entonces allí nos va a decir lo que se evalúa en esta sección, es la capacidad de utilizar vocabulario, etcétera. Después de eso viene cómo respondo a esta sección y después de eso, ¿qué vendría? Tips, uso del tiempo, perfecto, ya lo vamos a ver entonces. ¿Y qué más viene después? ¿Qué otras secciones encuentro en la cartilla? Refuerza la estrategia, perfecto. ¿Dónde encuentro otro diagnóstico? Sí, ¿dónde lo encuentro? Después de los entrenamientos vuelve a haber otro diagnóstico. Entonces tenemos un diagnóstico al inicio de la prueba, ¿sí? Para tener un punto de partida y tenemos un diagnóstico al final. ¿Qué más tenemos al interior de la cartilla? Otra sección que es importante. Reflexión, sí. ¿Perdón? Sí, el plan de mejoramiento, el registro de resultados que nos va a permitir. Vamos al slide completo. Listo. Entonces, lo que debes saber de la prueba diagnóstica inicial, entrenamientos parte 1 a la 7, que se evalúa en esta sección, cómo responder este tipo de preguntas, refuerce la estrategia, que es donde vamos a ver los 2 ejercicios de práctica, pruebe sus habilidades en clase, que es donde vamos a ver las preguntas que van a ejercitarse para trabajar esa sección y que corresponden a las características de la prueba real. vamos a tener la prueba diagnóstica y la tabla de registro de resultados, que es allí donde vamos a poder llevar una medición de qué se está haciendo a lo largo de la ejercitación con los estudiantes. Vamos a ir a hacer un recorrido por los entrenamientos, parte 1 a las 7. Entonces, entrenamiento parte 1, uso interactivo del inglés. Vamos a ver esta sección. Todas las secciones funcionan de la misma manera. Cada sección tiene un énfasis distinto, pero la estructura de la cartilla no varía en ese sentido. Bueno, vamos a ver qué evalúa esta sección. En la parte 1 de la prueba, Saber 11 de inglés, se mide su capacidad para identificar los propósitos comunicativos de 5 avisos y los lugares donde los podrá encontrar. Un aviso es una información, noticia o advertencia que relaciona a la persona en su entorno. Entonces nos da información básica de qué debo saber para presentar esta prueba y me caracteriza el tipo de evaluación que estoy a punto de presentar. ¿Cómo responder este tipo de prueba? Entonces me da un ejemplo. En este caso, clean up after your dog, me da 3 opciones según tal cual como aparece en la prueba. Me muestra las estrategias, ¿sí? Y es allí donde yo voy a desarrollar el paso a paso con los estudiantes y pasamos a los tips, donde se le va a dar información al estudiante adicional sobre cómo enfrentarse a esa sección del examen. Y refuerce la estrategia, que me muestra los ejercicios ya en función de poder dar respuesta adecuada a esas preguntas. Vamos a encontrar acá entonces 5 preguntas para la sección 1, ¿sí? Para la sección 2 vamos a encontrar el mismo número de preguntas, pero cada sección varía en el número de preguntas dependiendo las características de la prueba. Fíjense que tenemos en la parte superior el reloj que nos marca ese objetivo a cumplir, que son para esta sección 5 minutos. Entonces es importante que durante el trabajo con los estudiantes seamos enfáticos y estemos constantemente recordando ese marcador de tiempo, porque tiene una influencia importante sobre los resultados de la evaluación y que yo como estudiante pueda responder todas las preguntas de manera adecuada. Viene finalmente una reflexión final. Parte 1, entonces allí vamos a tener unas preguntas para que el estudiante reflexione sobre el uso de esas estrategias que pusimos en práctica en el cómo respondo esta pregunta. En este caso, por ejemplo, se le pregunta al estudiante si leyó el mensaje, el aviso cuidadosamente, si subrayó las palabras, si relacionó las palabras, si pensó al menos en 2 sitios donde se presentara esa actividad. Eso le va a permitir al estudiante llevar a un proceso de revisión y de reflexión para poder saber si estoy contestando automáticamente solo por contestar la prueba o si efectivamente estoy poniendo en práctica la ejercitación que hicimos en la sección de refuerce la estrategia y en la práctica. Y finalmente entonces vamos al final de la cartilla y vamos a tener el cuadro de resultados, donde el estudiante puede guardar los resultados. Entonces tenemos resultados de la prueba diagnóstica, ¿sí? Muy importantes porque esos resultados me permiten a mí hacer una comparación entre respuestas correctas y respuestas incorrectas para poder hacer un comparativo de cuál es la sección en la que tengo mayor cantidad de dificultades. Página 60 en la cartilla, finalizando. Y me permite tener un total también, entonces el estudiante va a poder llevar un récord de cuál es ese resultado en la evaluación. Resultados de las actividades de la sección pruebe sus habilidades en clase. Allí es donde vamos a tener, fíjense, la misma cantidad de preguntas que tiene la prueba y vamos a poder completar los resultados con respuestas correctas y respuestas incorrectas en cada sección. Tenemos una sección también para poder comparar secciones con mayor número de respuestas correctas, con menor número de respuestas correctas, también para poder hacer un comparativo. Entonces me va a poder permitir comparar parte con parte del examen y los resultados de la prueba diagnóstica final, y esa es la herramienta más valiosa que como docentes ustedes tienen, porque les va a permitir hacer un paralelo entre el inicio y el final, enfocándonos a un resultado. Y áreas de mejora. Entonces, el estudiante va a poder hacer una verificación de cuáles fueron esas áreas donde obtuve mayor mejora y donde obtuve un logro significativo. Y eso pues es valioso, es potenciador, porque le va a permitir al estudiante generar confianza en la presentación de la prueba, que es lo que a veces carece y es por lo que al enfrentarse a la prueba obtienen bajos resultados en muchos casos. Bueno. Listo. Entonces, me permite también ver el plan para mejorar aspectos donde he tenido dificultades, trazando algunas estrategias, hacer ejercicios de vocabulario y páginas web, hacer ejercicios de gramática y vamos entonces a los anexos, Johncito, correcto, correcto. Hoja de respuestas, prueba diagnóstica inicial, la vamos a encontrar. Esta está digital, allí la encuentran. Bueno, entonces, ¿cómo marcar las respuestas? Como asemeja la estructura de la prueba real, entonces vamos a tener una hoja de respuestas igual para que el estudiante por partes vaya marcando sus respuestas y vamos a tener también las respuestas para esa prueba diagnóstica. Los docentes van a tener acceso a ese answer key para poder guiar la corrección de esa evaluación y ya vamos a hablar más adelante de las estrategias para hacer la corrección de esa prueba diagnóstica inicial y la prueba diagnóstica final. Listo. Entonces, volviendo al cuadro que ustedes estaban completando, ya hicimos el recorrido por las distintas secciones de la prueba. Recordemos que las secciones todas funcionan de igual manera. Vamos a tener el mismo paso a paso, las mismas secciones para que los estudiantes puedan navegar de manera sencilla, para que ustedes también dentro de la clase puedan guiar ese trabajo de manera clara y que no haya espacio para confusiones. Entonces, este es el recorrido que tenemos, importante, nuevamente insisto en eso, la prueba diagnóstica inicial, la prueba diagnóstica final. Sin esa diagnóstica inicial no tenemos un rumbo y una ruta para seguir. Entonces, lo primero es poder aplicar esa prueba diagnóstica con los estudiantes y obtener esos resultados, concientizándolos de que el resultado que obtengamos ahí tiene que ser lo más real posible. No, el objetivo no es obtener en todo los puntos que se espera obtener, sino efectivamente reflejar el nivel del estudiante para poder después trabajar, ¿sí? Como en un tratamiento médico. Cuando uno va al médico, uno no le miente sobre qué está sintiendo. Sea sincera para que se pueda trazar un proceso de trabajo y el medicamento funcione a medida que lo toma y las recomendaciones sean pertinentes. Listo. Bueno. Vamos a avanzar entonces sobre qué es el examen diagnóstico. What is a diagnostic test? And what do you think it's a diagnostic test? We're going to work in pairs. We have 2 minutes. I want you to discuss. I want you to talk to your colleagues and have 2 minutes to reflect on that. What is a diagnostic test? And how do we use it? And what kind of diagnostic tests you've taken or you've seen, okay? We have 2 minutes. Okay? Yes? So I need a volunteer. John has the microphone. A volunteer to answer this question. Yes? Teacher, thank you.
Good participation here.
Yes. It's like in a real classroom, you know?
In our discussion, we said that it is supposed that students in 11th grade, they are in B1. It is supposed.
Yes.
So the diagnostic is to know the reality of the students into the class, is to identify if they are really in that level. Or, okay, to identify if it is real, that situation. If not, so what kind of strategies as teachers we can follow? So to identify the weaknesses, strengths the students have, and apart from that, what do they really need to get those levels that are required to present kind of tests like this, national
Yes.
or international test. So that is the diagnostic,
Very good.
to know the
definition.
reality of students into the classroom.
Yes, thank you very much. Additional comments?
Anybody
Additional
else?
ideas? Yes, somebody else, please? Anybody else who wants to add something? No? Teachers are shy today.
Dude, you're very shy. What's going on?
Okay, so that's a very good point of departure. A diagnostic test allows us to have a clear understanding of where our students are and be surprised to what we're going to see, positively or negatively, right? Because most of the times we believe students are going to have low scores and they have a low level, and what is the purpose of me doing this every day if I know they have a low level, but they can surprise you. And some of them can have good scores in some of the sections you didn't expect. So that can also potentialize what you're doing in the classroom, and have those students that have demonstrated certain knowledge get better results and help each other. And negatively, because maybe we have high expectations of our students and sometimes they disappoint us, because probably it's not because they don't know, but because they were not focused while they were taking the test, or they intentionally answered wrongly, just to demonstrate in a later test better results. So before you give them the test, make sure you give your students some initial words and some some comments on how important the test is, because it will allow them to understand. And if you want to give them examples and tell them, look, when you go to the doctor, you don't lie, because you want to get medicine that is effective. And you don't want to be you don't want to be sick for a long time. You want to get better soon. So it all depends on how clear you are with this thing that is affecting you, and that's the purpose of the diagnostic test. So, because you're very shy and we need your questions, I'm going to give you 1 minute, teachers, and everyone is going to write at least one question of all the things we've been discussing here this morning, because it's been mainly me talking here in front of you, and I want to talk with you. I want this to be a conversation where we answer questions, and all questions are welcome. Maybe it's one big question that we all have, but it's very important that in these few hours that we have today, we get to answer as many questions as we have, because then it's going to be you in the classroom working with your 40 students and implementing this successfully. And to implement something successfully, we need to have all the points very clear, okay? So we have 1 minute to write one question, and we will be taking them to the parking lot on that side, on this side of the wall, okay? One question. So this is a short definition of diagnostic tests, what a diagnostic test is. Teacher, your name, please? Sorry, I'm blind. Orley, thank you. So Orley helped us a while ago and gave us a good introduction to what a diagnostic test is. And we did a little bit of a reflection. This is a definition of what a diagnostic test is, and it's basically a test that we give prior to a course, right? And the aim of that diagnostic test is to give us tool to determine students' strengths and weaknesses. And be surprised. We also mentioned that, positively or negatively. Hopefully, more positively than negatively. And the results are not used as grades. Rather, the results inform the teacher's plan on what is it that we have to do to get better results in the future. So, to take the diagnostic tests, students are given these instructions, right? They have to read every one of the instructions in the test thoroughly. That's page 5 in the booklet you have printed. There is a welcome message for the student, and then we have the step-by-step on how to take the diagnostic test. Yes, page 5, right? Did you find it? Did everyone is there? Yeah, is everyone there? Okay. So read carefully every one of the instructions in this part of the test. Make sure you use at most 1 hour to do this test, because how long is the prueba saber? 60 minutes. So the diagnostic test has to resemble that exact time, 60 minutes, and that's what the diagnostic test does. If we have a shorter test or a longer test, students wouldn't be exposed to what they will be doing in prueba saber, and we will have trouble there. Only mark the right answer for every question, and you have to be very emphatic on that. If students start saying no A, no B, no C, they have to be clear on the answer for that question. Answer all the questions. We have 45, and sometimes they leave questions unanswered, and that's a problem, especially if they don't get towards the end of the exam, where we have the section with the highest weighting in the whole test. Avoid the use of electronic devices, simply because in the real test, they are not allowed to use cell phones or iPads or tablets or any kind of device. So when taking the test, you have to have the same conditions they have as when they are taking the real test. After you finish the diagnostic, students have to follow your instructions on how to collect the information, how to grade, how to and keep record of those results, and we're going to see how. And we ask students to go to page 63 to collect the results of the diagnostic tests. Remember the section where we keep records? What is the name of that section? Who remembers? Tabla de registro de resultados. Thank you, right? We go there to keep record. Yes, tabla de registro de resultados. It's at the end. We were navigating in the booklet, and we saw it at the end. We have one section where we collect the results of the first diagnostic test, and then we have another chart in the same section to collect the results of the second diagnostic test. Why? What is the purpose of having those two charts? I know it might sound obvious, but why? Why do we have two charts? To compare and contrast. Thank you very much, right? To compare and contrast and see, okay, got this, and now I have this. And through that process, students will gain confidence. That's the objective. Okay. So we have the answer key for the initial diagnostic test. This is the one you will have. And we're going to talk about how to correct that diagnostic test. So we can have self-correction, right? You can ask your students to self-correct their diagnostic test using the answer key and have them correct every one of the 45 questions, and then collect the results in the tabla de resultados. We can have peer correction and then do a little bit of collaborative work and have students exchange their answer sheets and have them correct one another's. And that's also positive because you're encouraging some kind of collaboration there, and students get to see results, and it helps you fasten the process. And we can do also teacher correction. Yeah? Okay. And this is tabla de resultados. This is where we were going when we were navigating the booklet. And in tabla de resultados, we will be collecting number of correct answers, number of incorrect answers, so you have the information section by section and a total. So I can see if I need strong medication in the next few weeks, if I, with a little bit of diet and exercise, I can get better, or if I'm just not sick, and if I do this, I can propel my results, right? That's the aim. Okay? Perfect. Pare, revise, corrija, y siga. And this, as Marta was mentioning at the beginning, this gives us a clear picture of how the scores are distributed and how the questions are aligned with the Common European Framework. I'm going to step aside a bit so you can take, I see some people taking photos. So we have 0 to 5 points is A1, 6 to 10 is 1.2, 11 to 24 is 8.2.1, 25 to 36, 8.82, 37 to 40, B1, and 41 to 45, B1.2. So, yes, it's on page 59 in your booklet. Okay, something very important that I want to highlight along with the diagnostic tests is that we have supporting material. You will have supporting material because you will be conducting the process, you will be leading the process, and you will be helping your students achieve better results in Prueba Saber. And one of those tools is the grammar reference, and another one is the glossary of terms. There you go. So we have a grammar references. This is achievable. That's the first thing you have to tell your students. Sometimes they believe this is like I'm going to be tested and this is Mission Impossible 3. I cannot do it. I don't know what to study. I don't know where to start. It's been 12 years. And I don't remember a single thing. Well, there are ways of improving and targeting things. And one of those tools you can use to help your students focus on what is it that they have to study is the grammar reference. And you have the grammar reference of what is it that a student who wants to get a B1 score or higher should know, right? And that can help you establish clearer goals and focus instruction. And we have it categorized, so it will be really helpful because it can focus the students on, oh, what is it that I need to study? These tenses, I need to know about connectors, I need to know about this. Second tool is the vocabulary list. We have abbreviations there and then a whole list of words a student B1 should know. Yeah? That one is it printed? No, it's not. Yes, you will have it. Yes, you will have it digital. Yeah, so you can download it. We're showing it to you so you know what you have. And you don't have to go look everywhere. You will have the resources so that you can focus your instruction and help your students. One of the strategies we will be exploring is creating word families, right? And if students are really good at creating word families and they are really good at categorizing words, then chances are they will get better results rather than just memorizing words randomly just for the sake of memorizing. But if they are able to start creating word families with an intention and a purpose in it, they will have better results. I'm completely sure. And you will have, of course, the answer keys and all these material is for you to help your students, and all the strategies that have been planned is for you to put into practice, and we'll be guiding you today through the different sections of the exam and what is it that we're going to do in class and how is it that those strategies are going to help our students, okay? So we'll be answering some questions now. Yeah, let's go. Yes, if you can please take a minute, stand up and see if the questions that are there have been answered. If they haven't been answered, leave them there and we'll answer them now, okay? So if you can please stand up, have a look, just stretch your legs. It's 10 a.m., it's 10:20. Okay, so we'll leave the questions that haven't been answered unanswered there. We'll take a time to answer those questions towards the end of the session. Something we want to highlight, and we want you to pay a lot of attention to this, is these links we have at the end of the reflection section, right? It's, you have the sign there showing students that they have extra practice resources, right? And if you can please click John there so that we can, we don't have, okay. No, we didn't. Okay, but we will be having these extra resources throughout the booklet, and students can refer to those sections in the digital form. They just need to address. When we go through the glossary of terms, it's very important for you to know that there is a reason why those words have been listed, and it's because the exam is based on those words. If there is a word that is not there, it doesn't belong to that level, right? And that's key for you to know. And we don't want students to go memorizing words everywhere and using words without a purpose. That list focuses students' attention on what is it that I need to work on. And that's why that vocabulary is key. And as Marta mentioned it at the beginning, that's the basis for the construction of the test. Right? Those vocabulary lists inform the creation of the test and are one of the basics of the creation of that test. So that would be, I guess, your friend number one. Using those vocabulary lists because they inform the test and they are there for a reason. And those words are particularly chosen and respond to the level. Okay, so we're now transitioning to the exploration of section by section and the strategies, and John will be guiding you in this process.
Thank you, Andrea. This one. Thank you very much. Morning, still morning, good morning. So we're moving on to the next part of this workshop. So we're gonna stop for a second and recall some important information. I'm gonna post some questions here to reactivate your knowledge. Here we go. Okay, in pairs, very quickly. Just remember this information, okay? Go. Easy? Okay, kind of. So, how many parts does the English section of Prueba Saber 11 have? Beautiful. What does each part evaluate? Let's remember, for example, part number 2. For example, part number 5. Take a look. You can take a look at the material. Okay. Which section refers to inferential reading? Number 6. Which section has the highest percentage in the test? 7. Very good. Excellent. Very. How many questions are there in total? 45. How many questions do parts 1, 2, and 3 have? Okay, there are 2 ways of answering, right? 15 in total or 5 each one. It's that correct. How many questions does part 4 have? 8 questions. How much time is allotted to complete this the English section of the test? 60 minutes, okay? Congratulations. There is some learning happening here, and that's very good. Good, let's move. Okay, we're gonna start here, a moment of reflection, a moment of application of what we have checked so far. This second part of the workshop is very important in terms of the following. Number 1, this particular booklet that you have there was designed with you in mind. It's made for teachers. But with what purpose? To help students. That's why at the center, at the core, at the heart of the booklet, we have something that is called the strategies. The strategies is part of the core. Why? Because as Andrea was saying, sometimes students just answer the test, okay? and they reject or they ignore that there are certain test-taking skills that can help them a lot to face a test like this. I don't know if you have ever taken a standardized test, international test, or you know people who have. I have a friend who is American. Okay, he's American. He lives in the States. And once he took a standardized test for English, testing his level of English. And he got a very low score. And he was native. What's going on? Strategies. He said, I don't know, the test was difficult. It was certain part here and another question and a graph. And the listening was very fast, and I had to contrast, I have to write information, I had to do many things. So the problem is sometimes not language. The problem is test-taking skills, developing the ability to take a test like this. And this is what we're going to focus on. Are you with me? Fantastic. Good. Where's my assistant? Andreita. Hello. We're going to use the flip book here, the digital book. And we're going to focus today on sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, this is going to be our main goal today. Thank you, Andreita. Sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 today. They were mentioning before that we'll have a follow-up workshop on this. And guess what sections we're going to be working on? 5, 6, and 7, yes, which is reading, literal, inferential. Okay, so some technical difficulties, yes. So let's remember something important. I want to emphasize on that. We have a group of students, they have certain level of English, they have or don't have the skills to take, or to a certain extent, they have certain skills to take a test. We have a diagnostic evaluation or diagnostic test, not to measure or grade, but to get information in order to differentiate our instruction in class to help them succeed. And I like the way Andrea presented is like going to the doctor, right? Or taking the car to the mechanic or the motorcycle or whatever. Diagnostic. We have a set of training, entrenamientos in each part. So this is your state, this is your current state, this is what we're going to apply, and then we have a diagnostic test, a final diagnostic test, okay? So this is what we're going to do. So in each section of the training, we'll have the same structure as Andrea mentioned it. Whoa. Okay. So let's start with the first part of training number 1. There is a question there. ¿Qué evalúa esta sección? This is very key. I mean, this workshop was designed in such a way that is very informative for students. It also, it's written and designed in a way that the students can also work by themselves. There is a lot of aspects of individual work or autonomous work, okay? The way it's written, the way it's explained, the way it is designed. So the first thing that we have here, what is the first question? ¿Qué evalúa esta sección? It's very important. And it goes as follows. En la parte 1 de la prueba Saber 11 de inglés se mide su capacidad para identificar los propósitos comunicativos de 5 avisos y los lugares donde los puedo encontrar. So, we're familiar with this. There are signs, okay, certain information, and those signs communicate. So question number 1, what do they communicate? Where can I find them? What information do they give me so I can understand them? And it goes like un aviso. They explain what that is. Okay, un aviso es una información, noticia o advertencia que relaciona a la persona con su entorno. So the first thing is students know what the section evaluates and it gives them a context. So they are like, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Second question, ¿cómo responder este tipo de pregunta? This is the heart of the section because this second question is the strategy itself, is the actual strategy. And it's stated in steps. The first step is almost always the same for all the parts, and it's lea el ejemplo. There's always an example, and examples are very important. Methodologically speaking, we can exploit an example as much as we can, okay? Don't disregard the example. Focus it, use it. Lea el mensaje del aviso cuidadosamente. Ejemplo, what does the sign say? Clean up after your dog. So first read it. And then the options. A, at home. B, at the park. And C, at the restaurant. That's the first thing, okay? And then we're gonna use that example, use the strategy to exploit and get the most out of it. So, number 2. What is the strategy number 2 there? Underline the important words. You can underline them or you can keep them in mind. Just understand them. Subraye las palabras más importantes, tales como verbos o sustantivos, that we are always going to find verbs and nouns in this type of. En este ejemplo serían clean up and dog. Okay, clean up and dog. Strategy number 1, read the example carefully and the options. Strategy, point number 2 of the strategy, underline or keep in mind the important words like verbs or nouns. And point number 3 of the strategy, step number 3, relacione las palabras que subrayó con el anuncio con cada opción de respuesta. Okay? In this case, clean up. ¿Dónde podríamos ver la palabra clean up? ¿En la casa? En la casa podríamos ver un anuncio que dice clean up. De pronto, at the restaurant. Bueno, de pronto sí, en la cocina un aviso que diga por favor no se olvide limpiar, pero no clean up. Y si fuera la palabra perro, dog, pues ya en el restaurante sería difícil. Okay. En la casa pues no hay avisos que hablen del perro, bueno, al menos que usted le tenga un aviso especial. Y también podemos pensar, we can also think about other contexts where we can find a sign like this. En el parque is from the real question, or we can think also as a strategy about. Point number 4 of the strategy. Read the options, okay, and try to connect those words with the sign and the options that you have. So finally, the step number 4 of the strategy is un aviso que diga clean up after your dog, que esté puesto y que informe a la gente. Definitivamente nadie lo va a poner en una casa. Nadie va a poner en un restaurante un aviso que diga clean up after your dog. So the only option that you have left is at the park. So let's recall the strategy. Read the example and the options. Then, okay, important words, yes, like the nouns or verbs. Then, connect, okay? Where can I find this type of sign? That's why the definition at the beginning is very important, and you have to exploit it. Piensen, imagínense, ¿dónde la podemos encontrar? Ideológicamente lo podemos hacer. ¿Dónde ustedes han visto? Conecten con los estudiantes. Where have you seen signs? Different signs. Oh, in the park, at the restaurant, whatever. Okay? And finally, you choose, okay, the option that is more likely to be the one. So that is the strategy. Very simple, very basic strategy. Next. Any questions about this strategy? You may have additional strategies. Okay, you have been working with the students. You can enrich these strategies. Or methodologically speaking, you can do it too. Additionally, okay, we have la opción B, at the park. Es el lugar en que se encontraría un mensaje en el que se pide limpiar donde el perro ensució. Por lo tanto, es la respuesta correcta. And this is what students have. Okay, it's an explanation, it's a reflection. Tips. Andrea was mentioning the tips. The tips is additional information for students to take the part, okay? They can be connected, they may be connected to the strategy, or they can go further. Let's read them. Lea siempre con detenimiento el aviso que acompaña cada pregunta y piense en posibles lugares donde pueda encontrarse. Adicional a las opciones de respuesta. Fíjese si el anuncio prohíbe, informa o solicita algo. Por ejemplo, le podemos decir, ¿qué características tiene un aviso que prohíbe? What color? Red, okay? And there is a stripe that crosses, okay? It prohibits. You can exploit these tips. Relacione las palabras claves con las opciones de respuesta para descartar las incorrectas. Es parte de la última parte de la estrategia número 4. Entonces, con estos tips, with the steps in mind and the strategies in 4 steps, guess what we're going to be doing right now? We're going to apply the strategy. So, important. We're modeling here, I am modeling what you could be doing with your students in class with the booklet, okay? Exploiting, thinking and reflecting on the strategies. And the next part is, now that you know the strategy, let's go for it and apply it on a certain number of examples. In this case, that's what we're going to be doing. Of course, your teachers and your level is higher than the students, but let's pretend, okay? Refuerce la estrategia is the next section. ¿Dónde puede ver este aviso? Para responder las siguientes preguntas, siga los 4 pasos expuestos en la parte anterior para desarrollar los siguientes ejercicios. It's very informative for students. Rellene el círculo, Andreita, baja. Eso. Rellene el círculo con la opción A, B o C según corresponda. In this refuerce la estrategia, you will not find the number of questions, the exact number of questions, maybe 2 or 3, just to practice the strategy. Number 1, the sign is baggage claim. The options are at the airport, at a snack bar, at a church. Answers A, B, or C. What I want you to do now is try to apply this strategy. I know that you know the answer, but try to go on a cognitive process and try to think like your students. Okay, can they apply this? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, to apply the strategies for questions 1 and 2. Go ahead, it's your time. In class, you explicitly reflected on the steps of the strategy. Students know the strategy. Now they apply the strategy in this part. How can we promote that interaction and that mediation with the students? It's something that we're going to discuss here. But let's first go with the answers. Number 1, if I tell you underline the important words, we have only 2 words, okay? So, okay, it's very easy. But what is the most important word there? Baggage. I have a question. Where do you think we can find the word baggage in an extra material that you have? Remember, Andrea told you about that you're going to get some digital material in the vocabulary list. Baggage, it's a word, okay, that it's there, okay? It's B1. It's part of the process of evaluation there, okay? We got it from there, actually, all of them. Baggage. So if we are with the students in class applying this strategy, so what is the first step? Underline the words, etc., etc. What is the second? Okay, relay the word to the 3 options. What is step number 3? Okay, previous to choosing, like where, okay, where can we also find these words? And of course, with this example, number 1 is very limited because we only have 2 words. So baggage, students are supposed to know this vocabulary, so it's very difficult to find baggage at a snack bar unless somebody left it there, okay? At a church, same thing, but you claim it at an airport. Number 2, speed limit 50. There is a number, okay? And there's a very common word that the students may know. Where can students get to know the word, for example, speed? Video games, yes. Okay, so you can also take into account students' prior knowledge. Sometimes what Andrea was saying is that we underestimate students, but this generation, more than before, is more exposed to English than us, all right? They have internet, they have video games, they have a lot of input of English, so speed is one of the words that could be there, okay? And the answer is on the road. So you exploit it in class. This part is very, very important. The strategies have to be very clear to students. And at the end of this section, you have a question. Remember, there is always a component of reflection. Think about the way you think, okay? Something kind of metacognitive, just some. La estrategia lo orientó en el desarrollo del ejercicio. Some students might say yes or no. And if a student says no, we can also develop on that. Why? No, profe, es que pues, está muy fácil. Speed, pues, ¿dónde speed limit? ¿Dónde se ve? Pues es obvio. Entonces no usé la estrategia. Ok, puede ser. Y los que sí la utilizaron, sí, a mí me sirvió hacerlo de esta manera. Ok, we reflect. Tuvo en cuenta los tips al momento de responder las preguntas, que es the other part, tips, yes or no, and reflect. Have them speak, make them speak. Not necessarily they have to answer in English. Okay, we know that we have certain situations with English, and we don't want English to become a barrier, a wall there. That's why some these instructions are in Spanish. Okay, very good. So let's move to the next, Andreita. Next page. If you have any questions so far, remember, feel free to write the questions. In any moment, I don't feel you're being disrespectful. You stand up and put it up there. There's no problem. Feel free. Good. Now, students know the strategy. Students apply the strategy. Students reflect on the process and the strategy. And now what? How many minutes do you have? 5 minutes. So the next part is not now practice, okay? It's pruebe sus habilidades en clase. No? Test yourself. So what do we do with the students? We tell them, okay, now it's your time to shine. You're gonna have 5 minutes, and you get your timer, your cell phone, or your watch, whatever you have, and you keep the time. 5 minutes, students, start doing it now. And as I am modeling this first section, we're gonna go through the first part all together. Guess what we're gonna do? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Start. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. You can do it in less. Go. Okay. Now, in the context of the class, we have to be very, very demanding with the time. It's 5 minutes. They need to organize their minds. They need to organize their time. They need to focus and be coherent with everything. So if it is 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and stop, okay? What strategies could you use? You could put up a timer, or just keep them there, or just announce that there are some minutes left while they are training, and that's it, hands up, no more writing, whatever, okay? It's important. So once you go through this, I have a question for you. Where are you answering these questions in this moment? In an answer sheet? No. Okay, it's something that Andrea mentioned before. Where, what part of the booklet we use to answer, let me rephrase the question. In which section do we use the answer sheets? Only the diagnostic test, the initial and the final. The rest of the questions are answered within the text, okay, within the text. So that's it. Let's say 5 minutes, point number 1, how can you, as Andrea mentioned before, there are many ways of correcting. Teacher correction is you take all the booklets, okay? You take them home under your arm, and you go and correct everything you by yourself forever alone. Second, okay, it's peer correction. Let's do this. Let's peer correct. Exchange. Okay, let's do it. Exchange your answers, and let's see if they are consistent. Okay, you cannot. Oh my, you can't. She's coming. Don't worry about it. Okay, you can exchange and compare if the answers are correct. You exchange and you check your partner's answers. You check in it, or you dialogue, okay, and talk about it and compare. Good. So, okay, give the paper back to the owner of the paper. Okay. So, correction. There is another important moment here. Feedback. How do you provide feedback in this moment? How can you do it? Because it's not only checking if it is correct or incorrect. This is evaluation for learning. And the booklet, La Cartilla, is for learning, not of learning only, okay? It's formative evaluation. So, anybody? How can we provide feedback in this moment if we are in class with the students? If they compare, they check if they're correct.
I think following the strategies you provided at the beginning.
Okay, so that's one thing. Reflecting on the strategies, good. Another option here. Providing feedback.
Yeah, discussing the answers with student. Discussing.
Discussing the answer. And how would you?
Maybe what do you think? Why? Where the place where you can see the sign?
Okay. So leading questions, good. Another possibility here.
Making a student who had a correct answer explain to the others how he did it or she did it.
That's a very good one, right? Sometimes they understand better when somebody their age and their language and they're connected, they understand better, okay? Those are other strategies for providing feedback. This is a very important moment in revising the questions. Feedback. So we make sure that students don't go home knowing that they got 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5, or 5 out of 5. But why? But why? That's a reflection. Okay? Very good. Let's move to the next section, Andrea. Yes. So go back, go back, go back. We finished that? We finished section? Go back a little bit. I want to go down. Reflection final. Reflexión final. We're not going to go over the questions. I know they're pretty good. So, what is the next step? So they exchange. They know if they have correct or incorrect. They have feedback, and then this is key because it's this booklet is like also a record of the process, how they should be. So, número de respuestas correctas. So, how many questions? Part 1? 5. Number of correct questions, number of incorrect questions. Okay? De 0 a 2 respuestas correctas, debo mejorar. De 3 a 4 respuestas correctas, me fue muy bien. 5 respuestas correctas, mi desempeño es excelente. Comparte con sus compañeros de clase el docente cómo les fue en la sección, la parte de reflexión, que se puede hacer de diferentes maneras, como ustedes lo dijeron. Y reflexión final. Eso es lo que tú dijiste ahorita. Alguien dijo sobre las estrategias. Who talked about strategies? I guess you. Yes. Reflexión final. Yo quiero que noten, yo quiero que hagan un flipping de las páginas ahí. Miren la pregunta de la reflexión y vayan a la estrategia. Y me dicen si ven alguna conexión.
Every strategy is a question.
The strategy becomes a question. So we reflect upon the strategy. The strategy is, yes, becomes a question. ¿Leyó el mensaje del aviso cuidadosamente? Sí, no. ¿Subrayó las palabras más importantes como verbos? ¿Sí o no? ¿Relacionó las palabras que subrayó? ¿Sí o no? ¿Pensó al menos en 2 sitios que podría encontrar este aviso? ¿Sí o no? Okay, the reflection is connected to the strategy. Sube un poquitico. Ahora, alert. Attention, attention, attention. Ahora vaya a la página 60 y registre los resultados obtenidos en la parte 1. Vamos a la página 60. Esto es lo que tienen que hacer los estudiantes, step by step. And we're going to do it. Página 60. Entonces vamos, dice parte de la prueba, parte 1, uso interactivo del inglés, número total de preguntas 5, número de respuestas correctas, ahí las ponen, número de respuestas incorrectas, ahí las ponen. Entonces las usamos dentro de la página y las sacamos luego al cuadro, porque el cuadro nos va a informar al final del proceso. Okay? Let's go back. So that's the whole process. That's the methodology. Okay? So let's recall. Step number 1.
Read the chart, read the sentence. Yeah.
Read the sentences. Okay, so we have the definition, okay, the strategy. What is next? The big parts. Definition, strategy. Use the strategy, okay, use the strategy, and then apply the strategy, and then you can take a look at the paper. Don't worry. So definition, strategies, use the strategy, apply the strategy, test your abilities. After testing your abilities, we compare answers, we write the correct, incorrect, we provide feedback, and then we reflect on the strategies, yes, and finally we go to page 60 and write the information, okay? We record the information there. That's the cycle. And it's the same cycle for part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So I did this modeling for part 1. Now we're going to go to part 2, but we're not going to do the whole thing. We're going to focus on what? Strategies. Strategies, tips, and practice. Okay? So let's move to entrenamiento parte 2. Oh, yes. There's something important they tell me here. So remember, at the end of each entrenamiento, you will have the computer, the icon, and they give you, okay, a link, a web page in which you can practice different strategies or grammar, vocabulary. In this case, is connected to the section. Para realizar práctica adicional con respecto al componente de uso interactivo del inglés is practice for that part. Accede al sitio web. Okay, good. That's very important. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. We're a team. Entrenamiento parte 2. What is the title? Conocimiento lexical. And number 1, part 1, uso interactivo del lenguaje. Part 2, conocimiento lexical. Okay? Lexical means like vocabulary, so it's very connected to the list and words and all. So the first part is ¿qué evalúa esta sección? Okay? Muy bien, ahí tenemos, rápidamente voy a leer la primera parte. En las preguntas que responderá en la parte 2 de la prueba saber de inglés se mide su conocimiento de vocabulario cotidiano. Cómo se habla y se le explica al estudiante qué es cotidiano. ¿Qué es cotidiano? Pues cómo se habla en la vida diaria, en la vida real. Y su capacidad de relacionarlo con la oración que describe un significado. Y ahí le dice cuántas respuestas tiene, cuántas preguntas tiene, etc. Y la pregunta número 2, cómo responder ese tipo de pregunta, es la estrategia, dividida en unos pasos. ¿Cómo responder este tipo de pregunta? Number 1, lea cuidadosamente la descripción dada. Siempre hay una categoría de vocabulario. Esto es importante para que los estudiantes se ubiquen. Siempre una categoría de vocabulario y palabras asociadas a esta categoría. Por ejemplo, la categoría professions puede tener palabras asociadas a esta como ¿qué? teacher, doctor, engineer, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. Entonces aquí, en la misma estrategia y en el mismo ejemplo que nos dan también una manera de metodología de trabajo con ellos para reforzar vocabulario. Okay? Word families, for example. Okay? So, example, appliances in the kitchen. You make juice in this. Now we don't have ABC, we have more options. Microwave oven, stove, toaster, coffee machine, dishwasher, oven, fridge, blender, vocabulary. Where did we get these words from? The list. Okay, the list. Those are words that students need to know, and they are there. Good. Step number 1 is always read the example. Strategy number 2. Who can help me?
Lea rápidamente las oraciones con las que debe relacionar las palabras de la derecha.
Okay, muy bien. Number 3.
Asocia la descripción con las palabras que conoce.
We're going to stop here. Think about it. Reflect it. Is the strategy clear in point 2 and 3? Quickly reading and connecting. Associate the description with the words that you know, because obviously it's possible that there will be words that students do not know. Point number 4 of this strategy. Step 4. En las opciones que no conoce, siga los siguientes pasos. ¿Okay? Ahí estamos enfocándonos en los dos posibles escenarios que tengamos. Los que conoce y los que no conoce. Y si no las conoce, ¿qué vamos a hacer? Subraye la acción o verbo o sustantivo clave en la descripción. En este caso serían ¿cuáles palabras? Make and use. Make and use. Una vez hecho esto, lo pueden subrayar, lo pueden tener en su mente, lo pueden encerrar en círculo. Piense al menos en dos palabras que se relacionen con esta descripción. ¿Dónde podríamos encontrar use o palabras conectadas con make use o con use? Aquí nos sugieren dos, siempre. Blender, fridge. Blender, aquí algunos lo conocen por un muñequito animado. Fridge, pues usted no hace jugo con un fridge, pero ¿qué puede pasar en un fridge? Usted puede guardar el juice. Entonces, hacer asociaciones. Paso 7. De lo contrario, si hay conocimiento, intente relacionar las palabras que subrayó en la descripción con cada opción de respuesta y le explican al estudiante, en español obviamente aquí, en este caso juice, está mucho más relacionada con blender, ¿ok? ¿Qué podemos hacer nosotros como profesores metodológicamente? Como tenemos una serie de palabras en estas listas y sabemos qué tipo de contextos se pueden utilizar, empezar a trabajar flashcards, word families in advanced. Next. Finalmente, nos dice a todos, la opción H es la respuesta correcta y nos argumenta por qué. Pues blender es la única opción de un elemento con el que se puede hacer jugo. Entonces, if in the moment of working with the students, they don't know the word blender, now they will. Okay, there is also learning in this process, and that's very key. And the answer is H. Y también podemos verificar para que ellos se familiaricen con la tabla de respuestas, ¿no? ¿Cómo la van a encontrar? Tips. Tip number 1. Observe a qué categoría corresponden las palabras claves. Siempre pensar en categorías. Aquí es importante hacer esa conexión. Electrodomésticos, útiles escolares, deportes. Y si yo puedo trabajar electrodomésticos o appliances, puedo una vez en clase tenerlo como una estrategia y hacer las familias de palabras. Entonces, appliances, ¿qué podemos utilizar? ¿Qué podemos encontrar? Les podemos decir a ellos. Y ellos nos podrían decir ¿qué? Electrodomésticos. Vacuum cleaner, washing machine, etc. Útiles escolares es una categoría más familiar para ellos. Book, notebook, ruler, okay, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. Tip número 2. Haga una imagen mental de las palabras en las opciones de respuesta y relaciones con la descripción dada en la categoría de la pregunta. Darles ese espacio a los estudiantes o mostrarles por unos flashcards o de alguna manera la imagen o que ellos recall the image. As many connections as they can make, the better. The more connections they make, the better. Consulte con su docente, le está diciendo aquí en la estrategia al estudiante, cómo y en dónde acceder al glosario para estudiar el vocabulario. ¿Dónde lo vamos a tener? ¿En la cartilla? Recuerden, Andreita les dijo, va a ser digital, ¿no? Me corrigen, va a estar a disposición de todos, ¿no? De cualquier persona que lo quiera descargar, estudiantes, profesores, cualquiera que lo quiera descargar, lo puede tener. Entonces, es un tip, no relacionado con la cartilla, sino con material adicional. Refuerce la estrategia, Andreita. ¿Qué hacemos en refuerce la estrategia entonces? Aprendimos la estrategia, entonces, ¿cuál es la idea de esta sección? ¿Cuál sería? Usar la estrategia, poner la estrategia en práctica, es refuerce la estrategia. ¿Cuál palabra de la columna de la derecha concuerda con la descripción? Rellene el ciclo de opción A a la H según corresponda. Vamos a hacer esta, solo esta, listo, en esta parte. Un minutico. What is the big category in this example? Means of transport, okay, means of transportation. Number one, this kind of transport usually travels underground. If the students know the vocabulary, it's easier and faster, but if not, what does this strategy suggest? Underline and connect, okay? So let's suppose we don't know much about it. So which words would be important in point number one? Transport is part of the big category. Under, that would be a very important aspect. I would say that the most important word in number one is under, okay? And tell them, think about what is under, and they will answer, okay, on, under, next to, okay. So think about a transportation that goes under. Move, show, say, mental image, under, okay? And number two, important words. Ship, maybe. We can work with synonyms. Okay. Water, so water. So it's not a bus, it's not a train. Okay, we're talking about water. So applying the strategy, making the connections, underlining the words, etc., etc. We get the answer of question number one is what? What is the answer? Underground is E, subway. And remember, this would be a terrific opportunity, okay, to work on additional vocabulary in class, okay? So maybe if you have any homework or any assignment, it should be connected to this strategies, using the strategies, ampling. Number two, what is the answer? The answer is C, the ferry, okay? And we can explain the additional information. Don't forget, did the strategy oriented me? Did I take into account the tips or not? And that's the way it is. So we emphasize 5 minutes. We tell them individually they work, you time it. Then what is the next part? Okay. Socializing, comparing, you decide the strategy. If it is individual, peer, or whatever you find the better, I suggest you to refresh, not always one strategy, okay? They write down the answers, they finally reflect. Remember the final reflection is connected to the strategy per se. So, for example, number 5, relacionó al menos 2 palabras con la descripción. 7, relacionó las palabras que subrayó en la descripción de cada respuesta. Leyó las opciones de respuesta. Once they do this, they go to page 60 and write the answer. And be careful with this. Para realizar práctica adicional con respecto al componente de vocabulario, go there. And that's it. That's the cycle. That's part number one. So part number one, part number two, lexicon, and let's go to part number three. Next page. Andreita, next page. What is the name of section 3? Conocimiento comunicativo. So we talked about signs, we talked about specific vocabulary. Now we're going to talk about conocimiento comunicativo. ¿Qué evalúa esta sección? En la parte 3 de la prueba Saber de Inglés se mide su capacidad de reconocer cuál es el lenguaje adecuado para utilizar en una conversación. It's not about only words or categories of words, but the correct word in context. Entendida como una breve situación comunicativa. Las preguntas de la parte 3 de la prueba buscan que usted elija la respuesta más adecuada para completar la conversación con lo que un hablante le dice al otro. Uno le dice a speaking conversation, which is the best word. Siempre va a encontrar 5 conversaciones. Todo esto es importante que ellos lo tengan en cuenta. ¿Para qué? Time management. Y debe elegir la mejor respuesta para completar el diálogo de la forma adecuada. ¿Cómo responder este tipo de pregunta? The strategy, divided in steps. Number 1, step number 1. Lea cuidadosamente el enunciado. Yo me perdí acá. Lea cuidadosamente el enunciado del hablante, que cómo se denomina, what's the name of that speaker one. E identifique la intención comunicativa. ¿Qué es la intención comunicativa? It's explained here. Es decir, lo que se quiere expresar. And what is what somebody wants to express? Una pregunta, una exclamación, una afirmación, una negación, una sorpresa, una necesidad. Okay? Example, always. Speaker 1. George is quite sad because his granny passed away last week. Speaker 2. A. He must be devastated. B. Don't give up. C. How is she? Step number 2 of the strategy. Establezca quiénes participan en la situación comunicativa. Mental image. Place yourself in that specific moment. Who do you think they are? ¿Está el hablante involucrado? ¿Se habla en tercera persona? Do they sound like friends? Do they sound like mother and son? Mental images context. The more connections, the better. Step 3. Subrayen el enunciado del hablante 1, speaker 1, las palabras clave para identificar el contexto. Es decir, en qué circunstancias ocurre la conversación. Mental image. Does it sound like they are in a hotel? Does it sound like they are in a school? Speaker 1. Entonces ahí hay unas palabras, there are some words that they're suggested there. What are they? Sad, passed away, okay, passed away. Y hay una conexión entre passed away and granny, okay, because of the age. En este caso, la palabra sad indica una situación triste, lamentable, y passed away, which is in the vocabulary list, un fallecimiento. Step 4. Piense en una situación en la que se utilizaría este enunciado y estas palabras. ¿Dónde podremos utilizar sad? Passed away. The example is clear. Un problema, una enfermedad, un fallecimiento. In this moment, you can ask the students to give you more insight. Where else? For example, the word sad. In the final results of Prueba Saber 11. Okay, for example, I don't know. Okay, un problema, yes. Step number 5. Lea de nuevo el enunciado del hablante 1. You go over okay, to check comprehension. Teniendo en cuenta la situación, en este caso, tristeza por un fallecimiento, y analice las opciones de la respuesta del hablante 2. The speaker 1, we analyze, we get a mental image, we discuss with the students. The second big part is the options. He must be devastated, don't give up, how is she? Next, Andreita. Elimine la respuesta que no concuerde con el hablante 2 o lo que el hablante 2 diría según la situación seleccionada, es decir, una situación negativa de tristeza. In here, we can also take advantage of the situation to classify, for example, adjectives, okay, positive and negative, okay, in a chart. Speaker 2, he must be devastated. Option B, don't give up. Esta situación invita a no rendirse y no se ajusta al contexto. And they are expressions that they usually appear in the exam, so they can get that chunk of word. How is she? Esta opción de pregunta por el estado de la abuela, pero pues ella ya falleció, pues no hay mucho que responder. So the only possible answer is he must be devastated. And you can also take advantage for explaining the word devastated and also synonyms of devastated. Elija la opción correcta, that's only just the last part, teniendo en cuenta la situación y márquela. La opción A, he must be devastated, es la respuesta correcta del hablante 2. Tips. Después de leer lo que dice el primer hablante, piense cuál podría ser las posibles respuestas del hablante 2, que estén ahí o que no, para enriquecer. Identifique la intención comunicativa del hablante 1. Observe si es una pregunta abierta o cerrada. Si es cerrada, nosotros siempre les decimos a estudiantes que siempre va a comenzar como yes or no, y eso le ayuda a descartar. Preste atención a las circunstancias generales de la situación, si es positiva, negativa, o las expresiones o palabras que se relacionan con ese tipo de situación. And then you go to refuerce la estrategia, and then, what is the next part? Refuerce la estrategia, apply the strategy, reinforce the strategy. The cycle goes, test your abilities in class, and they give you the time allotted for that section. You test your abilities in class, and then you reflect, correct, give feedback. They write down the answers in the paper and in the page number 60, and that's the cycle. And they give you also, para realizar práctica adicional con respecto al componente comunicativo, acceda a este sitio web. Next page. So, part 1, part 2, part 3. What is the last part? What is the title? Conocimiento gramatical. Okay. I'm going to stop here for a second. Do you have any questions so far? Feel free. Okay. Conocimiento gramatical. Comunicativo. We checked communication, signs, vocabulary or lexical. Okay. And now, grammar. It's very common to see. The grammar is very, very appreciated by many teachers. Okay, it's very highlighted, it's very important, and sometimes many teachers focus on grammar. Okay, some others don't. Okay, so taking into account that this standardized test measures not only grammar knowledge, but also the use of the language. But of course, grammar is there. ¿Qué evalúa esta sección? En las preguntas que responderá en la parte 4 de la prueba Saber 11, se mide su conocimiento de las reglas gramaticales del idioma inglés. En esta parte de la prueba encontrará un texto con 8 espacios que deberá completar eligiendo una palabra de acuerdo a su uso o tiempo verbal. So remember, it's not only grammar, present, past, future, but also the use. Okay, the applied grammar in context. In this case, we have Ramses 2, or the second. This is the text. We're going to go back to the text. So they have the text, they have the fill in the blank section, the blanks. Let's go, Andreita, to the step number 1 of the strategy. The strategy. Lea cuidadosamente la oración completa. This is the example, and it's always marked 0. It is argued, blank, some historians that Ramses II was the greatest and most powerful of the Egyptian pharaohs. So that's the first step of the strategy. Read the sentence completely. The whole, that's a good thing what you say. Sometimes the students just read a piece, a little part. No, they have to read it complete. Why? Because if you read it completely, it makes sense. Okay, it becomes meaningful, not parts by parts. So what is the second step? Reading, number 1. Number 2, lea nuevamente la oración y preste atención a las palabras ubicadas antes y después del espacio en blanco. This is key, all right? Because it may be a preposition. If you have the auxiliary have or has or don't, I don't know, isn't, so you start checking. Example, it is argued, blank, some historians that everyone says the second was the greatest. Antes del espacio se ubica ¿qué? Está en azul. Un verbo que determina una acción. Argue. Después está el complemento. Some historians that. Understand that. Step 3. Identifique la categoría que mejor podría completar la frase teniendo en cuenta las opciones de respuestas dadas. Which is the category here? Preposition. Additionally, this is evaluation for learning, so it's a very good excuse to go further. So categories of prepositions: in, on, at, by, for, to. En este caso, la palabra es una preposición que identifica a quién realiza una acción. For. Pruebe las diferentes opciones. Pruébelas. A, B or C en los espacios en blancos antes de seleccionar la respuesta correcta. Ahí es un trabajo. It's just options. Put them there. See if they make sense, if they sound good, if they are meaningful. It is argued, Andreita, por favor. It is argued by. It is argued for. It is argued to. By es una preposición para indicar que algo fue hecho por alguien. For es una preposición para indicar que algo es para alguien en uno de sus usos. To es una preposición para indicar el destino de algo o alguien. Elija la opción correcta y lea rápidamente la frase con la palabra que escogió para cerciorarse de que el sentido general de la oración es el apropiado. It is argued by some historians that. La opción A, by, es la respuesta correcta, ya que es una preposición que representa a quien realiza una acción. En este caso, ¿quién realiza la acción? Some historians. Okay? Ese es el proceso. So, in general terms, read, reread, understand, check the word before the blank and after the blank, and try all the options. Read again, and if it makes sense, okay, you go for it, okay? Thinking about it. So let's go. Next page. Oh no, let's go back, sorry. The text is in the back. In pairs, okay, you're gonna do this in pairs to make it a little bit faster. We're gonna do this. Apply this strategy there. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. It's a challenge, but you're my best and most advanced students ever, so you can do it. Okay? So if you think about sections 1, 2, and 3, they are structured at a sentence level. But here, the game changes a little bit because you have a text. So my question goes like this. How can you mediate this exercise with your students? How can you correct or how can you give feedback in this moment? Option number 1, can you give me, when you're gonna check the answers, what can you do? So they read, answered, they have the 8 answers, and then how can you do it afterwards? Ask one student to read, or ask some students to read and stop in question 1, or read the whole thing, get all the answers correct, and then reflect, or reflect in the making, okay, in the process, okay? Those are your options, and both are correct. Okay, you can go over, check if it is correct or incorrect, correct, incorrect, and then go back and analyze, or analyzing in the process. So I'm gonna use one of them. Would you mind reading, what's your name? Carol. Would you mind reading the text until up to point number 4?
Egypt is one of the most ancient civilizations in world history. One of the main characteristics of this culture was the pharaonic movement that ruled the empire. It is argued by some historians that Ramses II was the greatest and most powerful of the Egyptian pharaohs. He was born, and then we have a blank.
So in here, you suggest that we could stop. So what are the options? In, at, on, and we generally ask students, remember, okay, what is the preposition for years? Yes, what's the preposition for years? So what is the answer for you?
In.
In, okay, and they can write if the answer is correct or incorrect, and they take notes. Additional learning moments for this specific situation. Stop and reteach, stop and get a workshop ready, okay, or further practice. Okay, continue. In BC, okay, and became
Pharaoh when he was still a teenager. Ramses ruled Egypt for the rest of his long life. He lived over 90 years of age. Ramses deliberately cultivated a reputation as a great warrior, led several successful military campaigns against Egyptian rivals, but he also signed an important peace treaty with Egypt's long-standing enemies.
We're gonna stop there. I mean, she applied this strategy, is reading the sentence almost completely. It makes sense. So what are the options? Which, who, what? What is the correct answer?
Who?
Who? Why?
It refers to a person.
It refers to
people.
People, to a person. And we can go further, and we can ask them, if we're talking about a place, what would it be? Where, etc., etc. Okay? Yes. Continue.
But he also signed an important. Ramses is particularly for his architectural achievements.
You have to continue.
The construction of the magnificent new capital city of
Ramses,
and numerous monuments and temples, including the rock temple of Abu Simbel and his temple complex at Ram's Museum.
Okay, so number 3.
Number 3 is
recorded, reminded, remembered. The answer is A, B, or C? C, okay. And number 4, and we can ask them why, no? What is the difference between remember and remind? It's a very important teaching moment. Included, including, includes.
So that one is
what is the answer? Including. It's a very important moment to remember the use of tenses, okay? That's correct. And the, yes, relative pronouns and relative adjectives, etc., etc., etc. Then they go. How much time do they have allotted for this section? 11 minutes, 11 minutes. Of course, with a different text, okay? The Ramses II is the whole text for applying the strategy. And now, your abilities, you have the same number of questions, 8, resembling the actual or the real test. Next page. Then, you write the number of correct answers and incorrect answers, and you compare your answers in something qualitative, okay? Like, debo mejorar, me fue muy bien, mi desempeño fue excelente. Comparta con sus compañeros, reflexione, connecting the strategy with the questions. Vaya a la página 60, write the register your answers, correct or incorrect, and then puede realizar práctica adicional con respecto al componente de gramática en el sitio learnenglishbritishcouncil.com.org. That's section number 1. If I ask you this question, if you remember, the steps within each part, what is the cycle about? In parts 1 to 7, in this case, parts 1, 2, 3, 4 that we practiced today, there is a methodology, a cycle in each part that is repeated. So the first thing that we do is read what the part is about. What is the next thing?
Analyze the questions and the options.
Okay, but
right?
that has a name. That would have a name.
How to answer.
How to answer,
How
and
to
what
a-
is that called?
How to answer?
The strategies.
Strategy.
Okay, so if you go home with something, is this. Okay?
Strategy.
Inside each part, you read what the part is about. So you understand what the part is going to evaluate. The second part in the cycle is strategy. After the strategy, after you share the strategy with your students and they understand the strategy, what happened?
Reinforce.
Reinforce the strategy. Synonym, apply the strategy.
the strategy.
Synonym, use the strategy. After that,
Test your abilities.
okay, individual work, autonomous work. You test your abilities on your own, yes. After that,
Compare.
it depends on the interaction that you want to use, okay? Peer correction, teacher correction, autonomous correction, okay? And then you write the answers, okay?
Yes, you
But
write the
before going
answers.
to page 60,
Reflect.
reflect. And the reflection is connected to these strategies.
To the strategy.
Is the strategy in a question? So you reflect all the time in this strategy. Then you just go and write your answers on page number 60, etc., etc., etc. And the cycle is repeated in each part. Oh yes, and of course you have the additional practice, but that's autonomous work. That's the cycle. That's the cycle. So what is the heart of the booklet? Strategies. The strategies are for students to use them, but who dynamizes the strategy? Okay. Hello, Moto. Okay. So the strategy is structured for the student to use it, but we, the teachers, dynamize it. Okay, methodology, peer correction, individual, different strategies that you can apply also in the classroom. Okay? Now we know this, and I see you taking notes. I want you to go to your portfolio. It's on your desks. Again. So what is the purpose of this portfolio? This is Know Now, Achieving Skills, Preparing for Life portfolio. For a name, this is the name of the teacher. Okay. And I want to read this welcoming letter. Dear participant, welcome to the first training session on the booklet Know Now, Achieving Skills, Preparing for Life. You're about to start, actually you already started. Completing this portfolio purpose is to reflect, analyze, and determine the best ways to implement this tool in your school, so your students improve their English results in the English section of Prueba Saber 11. Please take your time to answer carefully the different questions. I have a question here. We're not going to answer all the questions, okay? We're going to reflect on the questions, analyze the questions. Best of luck in this learning experience. Remember that when the students answer their test, the diagnostic test, the practice, and the final diagnostic test, they put all those numbers in the table of results. At the end of the table of results, they ask them, the chart is like your best, the questions or the parts with the best answers, with the most incorrect answers. And now that you have this and you have practiced, now what is your plan of improvement for the student with the conquer of the teacher, okay? This is something similar, but only for the teacher. This is for you. So let's take a look at the other questions here. Which features of the booklet do you consider relevant to prepare your students for the English section of Saber 11 test? You don't have to answer here, but we're gonna discuss, okay? So who wants to answer? Which features of the booklet do you consider relevant to prepare your students? Somebody. This part of the classroom has been very silent. I don't know. Okay, my friend.
Thank you. Well, although all the material is quite relevant, one of the most important for me, I think it is the strategy section, you know?
Okay. That's it. Yes.
That's it.
Very punctual. The strategy section. Does anybody else have another possible answer? Okay, let's move to question 2. Which of the strategies, now connecting to what he said, do you consider will be the most useful to your students? Remember, we have only covered sections 1, 2, 3, 4. So far, which ones do you think they're going to be most useful to students? Anybody? Okay, in the back. We want to listen to you, and you're being recorded for national TV.
Okay, I consider that they have to read carefully, because sometimes just they watch the example and they started to fill the exam and they don't care about different things that really is relevant in the instructions.
Yes.
And useful, for instance, look the synonyms or look the main or the keywords for each question.
I like your answer because it's the first step. That's why every time you find an example, and reading and rereading, understanding this is the key. Does anybody else have another strategy that you consider important in the back and here? 1, 2?
I think that at the end, one of the most important strategy is reflect about one of this step by step. Each one of the things that they do or did for giving the answers.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay. It's related to the same answer. So I think that a special moment in the classroom is when there is a discussion about why this or why not this answer. So I think that moment is really important, so everybody can learn from others.
Thank you. So this Cartilla is a tool for learning, actually. It's not only reviewing the strategy, but also an opportunity for learning. Anybody else? Okay, let's move to point number 3, question 3. Which strategies do you consider to be challenging to understand and implement? You say, in part number 3, this, and question.
Well, maybe I consider identifying keywords or vocabulary because maybe the problem the students face the most is the lack of vocabulary. So maybe it would be a difficulty for them.
Okay, yes. We totally agree. We feel you. we're with you. But we also have identified that, so we have also tools to tackle that. Question number 4, next page. How can you approach the teaching of those challenging strategies? For example, what's your name, sir? Carlos. Carlos, you mentioned that vocabulary is one of them. So how can you use strategies to face that difficulty? I'm going to give you the microphone.
Well, I think, as we were saying before, the use of strategies that include vocabulary as family words, and synonym, antonyms, yeah? Maybe those are some strategies that we can use in order to increase and improve their students' vocabulary.
You told us at the beginning about the use of flashcards and visual aids, yeah.
Yes, also. So maybe translating is not the only option. Okay, we have other ways of learning. It's another possibility. Question? Yes, they have you have the vocabulary list, and you have the links to reinforce this special section, okay? Question 5, how do you plan to help your students improve their language level based on the diagnostic test? I leave the question there, wondering, so how can you help them after you have the first result? So one of the answers would be training and the additional strategies that you have, okay? There is a final reflection. This is the best way I, personally, plan to use the booklet with my students. There is a methodology, but there are several styles and there are several ways of exploiting this material. What is the best way for you? You have given me a lot of tips. Now I leave this session with more learning than things that I came here teaching. So this is the reflection. Another one. This is how I'm going to share, and I guess some of you are very worried about this part, how I'm going to share what I learned today with my colleagues at school. That's why some of you were not writing on the photocopies, because you want to have it clean and maybe photocopy it or something like that. Remember, you're going to have this free and available online, and you're going to get printed versions. So how I'm going to share maybe tomorrow or next week when you sit down with your colleagues and, okay, this is what I learned, this is what we can do, how are you going to do it? Think about it. The other reflection is, this is how I plan to measure the progress of my students while using the booklet. What is that specific tool that you can use to measure the progress? Do you remember in the booklet? The table of results, okay? Because you keep record of every single part, the correct and incorrect questions, and also there is a process of reflection from the student. Okay, we have here a space for other comments. The students have a section for planning to improve their learning. And finally, the last page of this portfolio is called an action plan form. So let's analyze this chart for a second. You got the teacher's name, the date, the school, the course, okay? And we have some instructions here. First, analyze the results of the diagnostic test. Remember, the diagnostic test 1, the initial. So you analyze the results, you pick up the answer sheets, and you see the results, the tables. Based on the results, prioritize 4 areas of urgent attention. Maybe you may find that students or certain group is having difficulties in the 7 parts. it's a possibility. Are you gonna work on the 7 parts? Maybe you won't have time, and you have to prioritize. Which ones would you prioritize?
Probably the ones with the highest score, or the ones the highest percentage.
Maybe the ones with the highest percentage. Okay, maybe you have a lot of students having problems with part number 1, maybe, I don't know. But you know that part number 7 has more value, has higher percentage, so you want to focus on that. Besides, part 7 is lexical and grammatical, grammar and word and vocabulary. So you can tackle those at once. So once you have prioritized the urgent attention areas, you include them in the form. So the chart reads areas of urgent attention, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what do you write in 1? The highest, right? Lexicon, vocabulary, grammar, communication, etc., etc. State 2 actions to improve the results in the chosen areas. Example, area of urgent attention, part 2, conocimiento lexical. Actions, specific actions. Have students create word families, clothes, KitchenAids, transport systems. Number 2, another specific action, concrete. Do a 10-minute vocabulary practice every class, matching words to definitions. Example, you use this to make phone calls. What is the word? Phone. So it's specific strategies to focus on the parts, on the partes de la prueba. And here is the chart, so you can organize your thinking and make a very concrete action plan and carry it out. So you can keep record, you see it, you follow it, and you execute it. Okay? Are you with me? Good, excellent. I want to stop for a second. I know that they're handing you something, but this part is very important. You have parking lot questions. I want you, if you wrote questions, go there. If the questions have already been answered, remove them. Only leave there the ones you haven't answered, or they haven't been answered, okay? I'll give you a couple of minutes. The teachers who wrote the questions, go there. 1 minute, go. There's a question here. We're not gonna answer. We're gonna answer it all together. How to apply what we are learning in this session in the class? Taking into account, I only have 50 minutes per week. How can I, 50 minutes per week with each group? Oh, there is somebody said, some autonomous work, yes. So there is a good question here. What would you prioritize in class, for example? The strategies is something that you have to do with students, okay? Maybe they can then apply the strategy in the prueba de tus habilidades at home, and then you come back and take some minutes to see what they've done. But the strategies have to be explicitly taught and explicitly analyzed. Yes, Andreita, you have one there?
Yeah. How can we tell the students that English is very important for their life in order to get them more interested in English?
How can we tell students that English is important for life? Can we tell them? How can we communicate them? Well, this is not a question related to the workshop, but we can we can answer it. Somebody, they're answering the evaluation form there. How can you tell them that it's important? Actually, they know it's important.
What I want to say is that probably, we could say that the question is not pretty relevant to the workshop, but I wrote a question that I think is similar to that one, and it's that, for example, in some schools, there are students who think that this kind of tests is useless for them because they have certain living conditions that don't let them dream and have projects in life. So in that sense, we can teach them all of these strategies, but at the end, they don't really care about the results they will get. So my question was probably not pointed to how to tell them if it's important or not, because somehow they know, but probably like how to make them aware of, I don't know, like the test needs concentration and needs them to make a good effort. Sometimes I find it difficult.
Yes, it's a, okay.
I just want to say something about that. I don't know if you know that English is the most important part of Prueba Saber. I read a question right here that said, why is English the last part in Prueba Saber? And the decision if a student has a higher score or a lower score is English. It's the decisive area in Prueba Saber that makes students improve their level in the whole score or decrease it. So that's one of the aspects. I know that probably their motivation is not important, but that's why we're working on other strategies with British Council and our mentors, gestores pedagógicos, and is trying to make sense of what we're teaching them. That's why we just want this type of booklet to be just a strategy in 11th grade in the last months before they apply the exam. But this is not what we should be teaching them during their whole secondary period. We should be teaching them how to communicate, how to survive, how to dream, how to be creative, how to communicate, how to be cooperative, how to have critical thinking skills, and how to write and make projects, how to do other things and find motivation to study the language.
Yes, I would add that the more use of the language and the more meaningful that use of the language is, students are going to make it, they're going to find it useful. If it is only grammar is ethereal. Okay, grammar without context is nothing. But if students, at least at a very basic level, they use English with a communicative purpose, it's going to make be more meaningful. Another question, ¿cómo poner el porcentaje por pregunta? ¿Hay alguna tabla o hay que sacarla por regla de 3? Entonces, ¿hay alguna tabla? ¿Hay tablitas? Antes de hablar del porcentaje, ¿hay tablas? Sí. ¿Qué ponemos en las tablas? Correctas, incorrectas, y sumamos los puntajes. ¿Okay? ¿Hay una tabla con porcentajes? No hay una tabla que le dé el porcentaje al profesor por cada un estudiante, pero hay una tabla con porcentajes según el número de preguntas correctas. Y adicionalmente le da una retroalimentación cualitativa, ¿no? Le dice cómo va y también cómo está conectado con el marco común de referencia del común europeo. Andreita, ¿tienes otra por ahí?
Sí, acá había una muy interesante. Decía, what are the differences between, I can find it now, but it said, what are the differences between this booklet and the one used before or produced before? And the things that the only booklet designed to train our students and give them strategies and tools to improve the results is this one.
Yes.
What we find in the ICFES page, it's just a sample from…
Just a test.
Just a test with
Without
sample
strategies.
questions. But we have no strategies, so a student could go there, download it, you could download it, it's free, it's there, but you don't have guidance on how is it that am I going to approach question 1 or part 1, part 2, part 3? What other resources should I use? And that's the benefit of this instrument and this booklet, and it's rich in terms of strategies and the resources you can use in your classes with your students and that they can use outside the class.
How many hours do teachers have to develop the booklet with the students? This question, the answer was mentioned at the beginning of the session. 40. 40 hours. Andreita.
Yes. How to improve reading skills in students who never read or not even in their own language. I think it's a challenge we all have with all kinds of students.
Yes.
I would personally recommend doing extensive reading. Sometimes we ask students to read what we want them to read for specific purposes, but if you encourage them to read something they like, and one thing about this booklet, and one thing we've been doing today is self-reflection, and students are not accustomed to doing it. I remember when I was in class, I was never asked to self-reflect on what I was doing, and I think that's the beginning of everything. If you have your students self-reflect on what is it that you like, why do you like to read this, then there are better chances that they will get interested because the answer is coming from them, not from you. So I would give you that piece of advice.
How can students access the virtual page with the resources? Andreita said.
It's going to be in Red Académica, and it's going to be called Know Now, Achieving Skills, Preparing for Life. So you look for Red Académica, the new web page. There is a specific page for second language program, and there you will find all the materials that we will be uploading. So yeah, and we will send you a message.
Yes.
We will all send you a message and inform all the teachers that it's already published.
Also the application, the app is going to be available.
We need to send the information as
Yes.
soon as we have it. Yeah.
Last question, Andrea.
Yep. There's another one, I guess it's for you too. Is this material available online in order to print it? Yes. You answered already. It will be available for print.
Yes.
We will be sending booklets to the diles.
Printed versions.
The printed versions for every school. So we have 25 schools who will have a booklet for every student. Those schools will be like very focalized, and it is because we want them to improve their levels of English, right? Their students to improve their levels of English. But we are sending 11 booklets, Luisa, more or less, or 9? 9 booklets for each school, so that you have in your library, in your libraries, or as samples of the booklet. But yes, it's going to be on PDF like you saw it here, and it's going to be
PDF and flipbook.
And flipbook. Oh, okay. So we will have it as a flipbook so that you can teach with it in your class if you have the technology to use it, and you will have examples of it. So we will be letting the schools know that every school, the 385 schools in Bogotá, will have a sample of Know Now. Okay? When? After the 7th of June, because that's when we're getting the booklets. So in our next workshop, you will have the real booklet, okay?
We want to thank you for your participation. You're strong people, strong teachers, very willing to learn. You'll have the evaluation formats there. Some of them are Richmond, the little strips of paper. Her name is Andrea Ramirez. My name is John Pulido. So if you want to evaluate individually, you can do it by our names. We really, really, really thank you.